Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. The guy you're looking at on the screen right now is Jason Harris, and a lot of you, especially if you're watching this soon after it's released, you're gonna know this guy, and you're gonna know why I'm making this. Jason's All-Sumo Channel was taken down the other day. It was copyright struck by NHK. He's been recording and watching their videos along with us, in a sense, for over a decade. He's been a staple of the international sumo community, and a lot of people have been really angry at the NHK for taking his channel down. It's a little surprising that they did it now after so long when they just let him go for all these years. A lot of comments have been made, and in fact, as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say, and before I got started recording, Mr. J-Wags put out a video. I'll link that in the description, where he talks about the same thing a lot of people are, that the sumo community, that the people who are running sumo in Japan are making a very short-sighted decision, attacking Jason, attacking people like Nato Sumo, and trying to get their channels taken down because they don't offer a reasonable way for international sumo fans to watch the sport. So without these guys, even though, yeah, they are breaking copyright law, they're actually doing a service for the sport in terms of international recognition, because the NHK, the JSA, they're not really doing anything to let people outside Japan watch matches. And that's all. I'm basically in agreement with most of what's being said. They do have the right to copyright strike these guys. It would be really nice if we had access to these in some official way, so we didn't have to worry about our favorite sumo channels being taken down on any given day. But what Mr. J-Wag says about, this is a cultural thing in Japan, that they are, when it comes to things that are kind of deep in their souls, very disinclined towards letting people in, even when the thing itself is at risk. And obviously sumo is a cultural staple in Japan. That is all true. That is a thing there, and we have to deal with that. We have to accept that. That's going to be said a lot. There's going to be a great deal spoken on that topic. So all I want to talk about is the fact that Jason is the reason why I, and I'm sure a lot of you, are into this sport in the first place. Kinta Mayama, Nato Sumo, people like that do us all a great service by recording all the fights and putting them up online. Nato especially, I appreciate that he has all the way down to Makushita. Not everybody does that, and they're not the only two. I mean, they're not the only two who do this. They're not the only two who take the risk of getting these copyright strikes, of doing all this work for what could inevitably, in some senses, turn out to be nothing. But Jason's different. Jason's whole style was different. When you watch the recordings, so Nato, you get the neat graphics. Kinta, you get his sometimes sarcastic commentary at the bottom of the screen. But Jason just recorded his television and talked through the fights. A lot of times there was just silence from him, and that was okay. It all added up to this sense that you were just hanging out with a buddy on the couch. It all added up to this sense that you were just hanging out with a buddy on the couch watching the matches. That was one of the coolest things about it. It's hard to explain how important it is to have that welcoming voice when you are in an unfamiliar place, looking up this unfamiliar topic, this thing that seems interesting on the surface, but it can be very difficult to get information about it. Sumo is notorious for not being the easiest thing to find information about if you don't speak Japanese. Even on the sumo forum, where you've got lots of English language speakers, it's pretty common for people to use sport-related terminology that you just don't know what it means. It's Japanese words, and there's nothing in context that tells you what it is. So you just kind of got to guess, you got to ask, you got to figure it out. And even though people will answer questions, sometimes if you ask too many questions, you feel like kind of an idiot. Jason was the guy who never made you feel dumb for not knowing things. He was coming at this from the level of an expert who's been watching this sport for years and years, at least when I got to finding out who he was. But at the same time, also on your level, as somebody who doesn't necessarily speak in jargon, who doesn't use all the Japanese terms for stuff all the time, who really understands what it's like to just want to sit down and watch the action. You know, appreciation for all the ritual, all the ceremony. I'm not suggesting he didn't have that. He absolutely did. But it says something for how easy it was to watch his videos, that even though it took more time to watch it fight by fight, day by day, and kind of sit with him the way that he invited you to, than it was to just grab a shorter video that had all the fights back to back to back to back. That took more time, and I stopped doing it eventually because I have kind of an intense personality and I really like to get through things. But I still watched him for well over a year because it was just fun. It was just easy and entertaining and interesting to watch it, as I said, alongside him in that way. It made entering the world of sumo so much easier for so many of us that I'm not sure what's going to happen with the community without a voice like his to help guide us through the fights. He has said that he wants to continue doing commentary, and I think that's great. His voice would be invaluable for as long as he continues to do this. But without the whole talking over the fights aspect, without that whole let's watch the fights together aspect, no matter what he does, that specific thing that helped bring a lot of us into this game in the first place just won't be there. And that's unfortunate. I hope that in the future, some of the people who are starting to rise up in the power of the Sumo Association, especially some of the foreign-born wrestlers like Hakuho, he has caught a lot of shit from people in the sumo community for a lot of reasons, but he's still the GOAT, and he still carries a lot of influence, and that will only grow over time. He has reportedly thought of different and hopefully better ways to treat his wrestlers, and in time, maybe Hakuho and guys like him will find ways to convince the broader Sumo Association to expand their reach outward, to look internationally, to maybe bring in, if not more foreign wrestlers, which would help drive interest across the world, then at least invite those who do not live in Japan to enjoy this piece of Japanese culture, that it's okay to let us respect what they do. I am hanging a lot of hope, admittedly, on these guys who were not born in Japan, and in fact, people who are from Japan may be the ones to push this kind of change. I don't know. All I know is Jason's channel is gone. It was the only one that did what it did, and it was, for many of us, the greatest, and in some cases, the only place where we could have started and stuck with this sport. He did a huge service to sumo. He did a huge service to the English-speaking sumo fan community, and I am glad that he will remain part of the community in some capacity. But let's pour one out for the channel and for all the work he's done. Let's give a thank you to all of the people who worked to save as much of his channel as they could. Whether or not any of that goes back online, it still exists, and that's good. That is a boon for all of us. Hopefully we'll have free access to that at some point in the future so we can watch some classic fights again. We'll have to see. That's all I got. It's a sad day. I felt like I needed to say something because he was so crucial to my personal interest in this sport. I didn't want to just let that go unnoticed. Like I said, I will put Mr. J Wags' video, a link to that, in the description. I hope you watch it. And if you are part of any communities, any sumo communities on Discord or wherever, take part in the conversation, show some love. I know some people are going to be angry. You might want to just rip the NHK a new a-hole. I get it. If that's how you feel, go off. I'm not telling you not to. But let's try to temper that also with some positivity, some good feelings towards Jason, towards the other members of the community who make content that helps bring us together, that helps us understand this sport better, and try to remind ourselves and each other that there's a lot of good here, a lot of good work being done, a lot of positive momentum towards bringing this sport towards a broader audience, that even though the forces in Japan, like the powers that be, might not care that much, we do. And that's what really matters. So let's keep up the good work. Let's keep supporting each other, trying to make this easier to understand for everyone, new and old. And yeah, that's what I got. We got some meets to come. I'm working on it. Might be a little bit, but yeah. I'll see you soon. Thanks, Jason.